Recording's up. It'll just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about.
Alright.
Great charge. We'll talk about a bit of shield tech after we're done here. Good aggression. How does she get behind? Did she get
I think res,
Oh,
probably.
okay.
I'm assuming. Yeah, they have a mercy. Yeah, I was like, wait, what? That was funny.
Yeah. Usually for that first half, it's pushing carts like kind of support job, and then second half of point, it's then on the tanks. Because during this first half, you kind of want to be taking space for your
Yeah,
DPS to be
but
able to shoot things.
it's like nobody else is on card, so I'm like, I'll stay on it, I guess.
Yeah. You can potentially like try pinging it and things like that as options. Very nice. Alright, kind of going a little smooth at the moment. We're definitely, I think the main thing I'm seeing right now is we're going to be talking about a bunch of different shield things.
Well, I mean, it's been going smooth so far. I mean, see, like, I'm trying to tab right now. My tab's not working. I need to...
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Like, it like comes and goes. Like, it'll work when it wants to.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what she grabbed.
Yep. Good job seeing the shoes off on her own. Maybe could have even pushed her slightly faster.
Yeah.
Maybe could be pushing those guys on the left side there, especially like when their whole team is regrouping. Alright. Pretty smooth. Yeah, like I said, probably could have, like, while it was just like the Moira and Lucio over there, I think the rest of their teammates were respawning. You had kind of your teammates up on high ground. Probably could have pushed like a little aggro on them, and then backed up if you needed to back up. Besides that, Shatter probably could have been a little bit more ambitious, like hit a little bit more people. And then besides that, like we'll talk about some shield stuff after this game, but pretty smooth first attack. we kind of just push it the whole way through.
I mean, like this guy is skeptical about what rank it is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what rank I don't know what my teammates are. Out private. Everyone is on private.
Yep.
Private. Okay. I guess nobody wants to show their rank.
Yep.
Why seek answers when we do not know That's not the word I would choose.
The delta M of a given ray Q is approximately... The formula escapes me.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Okay. Here I'd probably be taking a high ground. Not too much of a reason to be on low ground. High ground gives you a lot of advantages to be playing from. It allows for a much easier way to back up as well. Kind of also maintains the no man's land as well. I think we talked about that last time, right?
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Enemy vector calculated. Barrier cannot withstand. My barrier is gone.
Nice.
Barrier is splintering. Actuating the barrier. Barrier has fallen.
Okay, got a little too aggro, pushed past her shield, pushed kind of without her team. Just be careful because he ended up, yeah, just getting too aggressive when potentially you should be sitting back a little bit more, playing to your range. If your shield breaks, probably even backing up to use cover. Things like that, right? You don't gotta force the engagement when they're not, when they still have 3 ticks to go.
I'm gonna swap after this because, like, I was in Yada and they can just ult my ult. Sorry, I was too aggressive.
Oh, good job punishing her.
Oh, man, I knew it. Well, that's no bueno.
Very nice. Good job hearing where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, make sure you're hugging the cover harder. Like, just be on the corner. You're very out in the open there. Whew! Very nice.
Oh, I ate the grab. Nice. I didn't notice.
Okay, very nice. I'm noticing just a bit of positional things, like watch just in general cover usage, because oftentimes I notice like you'll just kind of stray out into the open sometimes when it's not necessary, and it ends up taking a lot of unnecessary damage because of it.
Yeah. Just play the corners for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ramatra. Oh, that's no bueno.
Right.
Where did the team go? I don't know where the rest of the team were.
Your team or their team?
No, their team. Like, it was just 2 on point. I don't know what the rest were trying to flank. I don't know.
Not too sure. So Ramantra has a bit better close range than you do, right? You're like kind of
Long range.
you're a bit more mid range. He can do mid range, but he's also like he's flexible. He can do both. So I would just say be careful about playing close range to him. Try to keep a little bit of a range on him, and don't feel like you need to be touching. Oh. Watch the health bar. If you're 30 HP and fluxing, firstly, potentially watch the HP before you're fluxing, and then afterwards, just hard use cover rather than staying on the open. As I was saying, like you still have like very much like far on point to go. Don't feel like you have to contest every inch, right? You sometimes can give up space if it's gonna mean that you stay alive and win the fight. So potentially instead, like if Ramatra, if you know that you're kind of on your own, Ramatra and another teammate are pushing you, don't feel like you have to stay on cart, back up, give them some space, make it so that you're able to stay alive, and then that way you can win the fight. And it's not really going to cost you too much because, what, they push the cart an extra 10 meters? Does that really matter when you already capped 3 points? That sort of thing, right? Alright, let's real quick go over some shield stuff. First thing I'd say on Reinhardt is to just watch the same shield stuff we've talked about with Sigma, right? So we've talked about with Sigma, we've gone over things like make sure that when you're using it, it's not just for spam damage, but it's for things that matter, right? We've gone over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for abilities, for ultimates, for high amounts of damage, for when you or your teammates are low HP, and now of course you need to pay attention to all of that stuff, which comes in the hard. That's the hard part, is noticing when all those things are happening. But that's when it's going to get value. Whereas if you just kind of put it up for everything, then that's not how you get value. So on Sigma, I would say it wasn't as bad, though still maybe need some work. Like that's still something that you need to watch out for. It's just like making sure you're getting the most value as possible out of your shield. Reinhardt, though, it did seem a lot. You did hold it up very frequently, like just pretty much you just kind of spam hold it when there wasn't anything better to do. And I just be careful of that, because then that just means that you're not you end up you don't let it recharge. It's gonna mean that you because when it's up, it's obviously not recharging.
It's not recharging.
Gonna mean that you end up wasting it on things that aren't as important. And then also on top of that, anytime that you're shielding, you're not swinging, right? Which means that you just can't do anything. Whereas on a character like Sigma, you can shield and shoot. Reinhardt, it's one or the other, right? So anytime that we're spending, kind of wasting our shield, we're also not doing anything. So just be a bit careful that you're using it when it matters and not using it when it doesn't matter. Kind of additional. The easy way, another way that you can use shield and Reinhardt as well is to like approach and to back up from fights and things like that. You can kind of do that in Sigma. It's like a little bit easier to do that as Reinhardt, especially like I guess like the backup part. But it's a little bit unique as well. Have you ever heard of shield hopping?
Yes. I've heard of it, but I'm not sure like how it works exactly.
Sure. So I'll demonstrate shield hopping for you, because it's a pretty handy tech on Reinhardt to be able to essentially move places faster while preserving your shield. So it's kind of a win-win all around. So if I'm trying to get from point A to point B, so I'm being aggressive here and I'm pushing into their team, what I would, let's say I just walk it normally. Well, yeah, I'm going super fast, but then they're just going to shred me, right? Not going to work out too well for me. If on the flip side, if I just hold down my shield as I approach, which is what you were doing, it's better than not holding shield, but because I'm going so slowly, they're just going to shred through my shield, and then by the time I get there, my shield's broken, and now I'm here and my shield's broken, and they damage me, and I have no way to negate damage. I have no way to escape if I need to escape, right? It's just, I'm going to get there, and I don't have a shield. Now, on the happy medium is what you call shield hopping, and what this is basically at its basics is I am going to hold W because obviously I'm going forwards. You are going to jump, and while you are jumping, you're going to shield, and then you're going to drop, jump, shield, drop, jump, shield, drop, jump, shield, drop. So it's basically just every time you're landing, you're dropping, and then you're jumping again. So it's kind of, you can find a nice rhythm with it. I'd practice it maybe in the training range while you're like in queues and things like that. But you're essentially, notice how this is much faster than if we just slow walked it. Right, it's much faster, and also you're dropping your shield, which rotates the damage between your shield and also your health, but it's not enough damage usually to kill you, which means it can just get healed up, and then that means that's even more shield preservation. So just overall, it's going to preserve your shield and get you in faster. You can also do this backwards as well. So let's say you're in here and you want to get out. Well, you can backward shield hop, where you just drop it right in between, and then that gets you out faster. Now, if you're ever approaching or backing and you or your teammates are low HP, or you're blocking an ability or an ultimate, of course hold it. Right? Don't like, just this is only if you're trying to approach or back out fast and you're prioritizing speed. If you're ever needing to block anything in particular, then hold it. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's gonna be handy for whenever you're trying to approach. Let's see, is there anything else? Minor things on Reinhardt as well. No, you can, because from behind things, so that way you can kind of quick peek with them, and not have to stand out in the open. With your swing, note that your swing range, so if we find our swing range, here, your swing range actually is larger from the side hitbox than it is from the front. Meaning that if I'm aiming directly at somebody, oh, I guess they moved out of the way there. If I'm aiming directly at somebody, it's not going to hit them, but if I move to the side a little bit, it will hit them. So how you can kind of maximize this is, if you're ever swinging on somebody and trying to get extra range, you can kind of aim to the side of them to get extra range on them. But the other thing that you can do with your swing is to be a little bit more arcing with your swing. So when you're in a fight, right, instead of looking at this bot, because I'm trying to hit this bot, and swinging on this bot, notice how limiting this is, where I'm only... Whereas if I swing like this, I can hit both of them, right? So doing more arcing swings. So usually the very easy way to go about this is just follow the path of your hammer, right? Just swing with your hammer. Hammer goes right, I go right. Hammer goes left, I go left. So left, right, right, and you get multiple people. Like, just be a little bit more swingy, like when you're in brawls on the point, and then that can get you more value as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Think maybe like shatter. Just remember that it's a cone, so it spreads outwards from the shatter location. So if you're trying to hit as many, you want to put yourself in a position where you can basically see everyone on your screen, kind of get them in that cone. If you're too close, then it's not going to catch everybody in it. So you want to place it in a spot where it's going to catch multiple people. You queue up. Was there any questions on anything so far?
No, I mean, everything made sense for what you said in terms of Ryan, because when I play Ryan, I kind of just, I don't, when people usually play Ryan, they just kind of swing their hammer. No, there's like no thought, just like, oh, get close, swing your hammer, get a kill. But no questions. I mean, everything's made, perfect sense so far.
Yep. All right. Yeah, Sigma. I think it's a lot of the same old per se, right? Just shield management, missing some rocks once in a while. Grasp usage pretty solid, but like once in a while, like like could use it when you didn't, things like that. Positioning, I'd say is probably the big one across Sigma and Reinhardt. Cover usage, high ground usage. No man's land and choke point usage, and standing kind of at the back end. Ranging, like with your Sigma, like just if you have a Reinhardt or Ramatra pushing you, backing up and giving them space, and just just continue to spam them out, and not just trying to necessarily take the brawl. And when you're at the disadvantage in that case, unless you have another advantage that kind of lets you.
For sure.
Yeah, by the way, you need to stream again.
Okay. My bad.
All good, all good.
But then, I mean, that was just a sweep, though. I mean, let's see how this next game goes. Like, though, I don't know what the enemy team, like, I don't know. They were just, I feel like they were just staggering a lot. I think that was the issue for them.
Yep.
Traveling to Nepal.
Okay.
Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Now this point can be good for Reinhardt, but I think this point's probably a better one for like Sigma, because it's very wide out in the open. Also, if you look at your composition, right, you're running a very spammy composition. Double sniper, Mercy Zen. Mercy Zen is a very low healing composition, so and Reinhardt as a character kind of needs a lot of healing. So not gonna get a lot of healing. It's also a very ranged composition, and then this point is also very wide out in the open. Okay, jump.
Freaking Hanzo, no, he's killing our whole team.
There honestly probably could have just tried to cap the cap point before you go and push the Hanzo.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Here I probably want to just sit point. Usually like top left controls is pretty important on this map. Okay, very nice. Yep. Okay, very nice. Usually I would kind of hold top left where your Hanzo's at until they start to push point, and then you can rotate point. Very nice, Rock. Back up, heals. Watch the health bar. I can't re-push on 75 HP. Maybe go grab like the either mega on the back or right side, and that way you can push again. Just gotta keep eyes out open for that. Hey, good job dancing on your shield there.
Oh.
Our future will be forged in conflict.
Well, I didn't see that trap.
Prepare yourself. Devastation. Seizing the objective. Rally.
Well,
Yep.
Best round lost.
Alrighty. So we're gonna talk. I have one thing in mind we can talk about afterwards. Besides that, during a couple of those fights, potentially look to take like the top left high ground. Obviously not on that last thing where you're trying to recontest, but taking top left high ground kind of gives it to your team. Kind of gets you that positional advantage. At the very beginning of the round, you still have time before point unlocks, so you don't need to push point immediately. And then additionally, if you have point control, then that means that you can I don't know if you knew this, but you can jump from top left to point, which just means that you're able to contest it kind of immediately as long as they don't boop you off. You can even rotate if you see them start to push a point. You can rotate around and just contest from the right side. Things like that I would just high ground control, pretty good for your team. Same thing here. Usually, most of the time, I'd recommend coming out on the high ground. No need to immediately push point where you can get the positional advantage.
The objective is
Try to remain aware of your surroundings. Barrier initialized.
Oh man.
Watch your health bar before you're ulting. Sometimes that's just getting killed in the past couple of games. Go keep an eye out for it. In between fights, make sure that you're rotating to the best positioning possible, which there would be high ground. Because what if they come out on high ground instead of going main? Well, now they get high ground for free. That's a free advantage. High ground here can see into point, which gives most of their team high ground control, and they can kind of run all over top of you without you being able to see where they're at. Like here, if we're trying to approach and they're all down main, take high ground, and then that way you don't really have to worry about them stuffing you in choke point. Okay. Take every opportunity you have to charge up your E if possible. It's just going to get you a lot more value than kind of going about your business by like normal.
Oh, that's game.
Unfortunate. All right. So let us talk over a little bit of mechanical stuff. Have we gone over your sensitivity before?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So last time we talked on your sensitivity, just for my own, for me remembering here, because I think you said the last time you changed it up, it was. Okay, maybe if am I remembering correctly if I say like you lowered it by like a third of what you had it before?
I think so. I think originally I had it to. Let me check real quick. It was
Like you had it like 15,000 DPI or something like that, and then now it's
well, yeah,
10,000
it was
DPI.
No, it was
Or
no,
sorry,
it
not
was
DPI.
1,000.
EDPI.
Well, it was yeah. Well, DPI was 1,000, and I lowered it, and I have it currently to 800, and then sensitivity was 15%, and I have it at 12.50 right now.
So that was okay. Yeah, so that's what it was. So sorry, I meant EDPI when I said it. So that's your sensitivity and DPI combined. Potentially you could look to still lower it, because so what I'm noticing is just a very flicky aim style, which can lead to inconsistency. So let's talk about flicks for a moment. And we'll talk about the we'll talk about when and why, when to use flicks, when not to use flicks, but because basically flicks are how you can aim, but they're a little situational. It's gonna depend, and they will come up very frequently, but it's just not something you want to be doing all the time, which can just lead to some problems. So when do you need to flick? Well, what is flicking? Flicking is when your crosshair needs to go from point A to point B very, very quickly, right? It's like a snap. And that needs to happen when, for example, they have a fast-moving target. So let's say Tracer's blinking around you. Well, you can't really track that because she's making an instantaneous motion, so you're going to need to also make a very fast motion and flick around to shoot at the Tracer. Let's say someone sneaks up behind you. Well, you're not going to want to just slowly move your crosshair over. You're going to want to quickly turn around and flick to the target. If you're acquiring a new target, so let's say we're looking up at, we're looking down here, and then all of a sudden we look up to this guy on the high ground. We're going to flick up to acquire our new target. But once you have your crosshair on somebody, you're no longer going to want to flick if they're just a slow moving target that you're already aiming at, because if we're flicking while we're looking at the person and your crosshair is very jittery, and you're kind of all over the place, and that can kind of throw your shots around the person, and you end up missing more shots, or at least it leads to inconsistency where you're sometimes maybe if you're having a really great aim day, maybe you hit all those shots because you're kind of on point, and then the days where you're not having so great of aim, then you're just missing everything because all of your aim is relying upon you having just a great aim, muscle memory, and whatnot, which isn't going to be the case all the time. So it's going to lead to some inconsistency when you aim like that. So if you have your crosshair on somebody and there's nothing fancy going on, just keep your crosshair on top of them, and look to kind of track them, or if you're shooting a Sigma, you can lead your shots with your orbs at ranges. You can lead it, things like that. But when you have a higher sensitivity, it can be harder to even end up tracking, and it kind of leads to a naturally flicky aim style. So I may potentially recommend lowering it even further if you are interested in that. I mean, if you're comfortable with where it is now, then that's fine. It's not a major deal. You can work with it. And there are 100. There are professional players who work with high sensitivity, so like it's not impossible. It's just, I might recommend, if you're trying to get some more accurate aiming with Sigma, that you could even go potentially lower than that. Don't feel like you have to cut it in half again. I mean, like, that's not what you have to do, but just throwing out an idea. And besides that, if you didn't go that route, just keep intention at, like, put intentionality behind when you are flicking, when you aren't flicking, and that's gonna help you with your rocks as well. Where, like, sometimes with your rocks, you don't have to go make every rock go for the, like, wata, right? Like, it doesn't have to always be that. Do that when it's necessary, and then when it's not necessary, just lead it and put it ahead of the person, or put it on top of the person if you're really close to them. And then that way you're not missing them when it could just be an easy rock. All that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty. Besides that, I just recommend, once again, not taking a lot of high grounds in your games. Like, high grounds, like, just to rerun over those advantages. Additional survivability because it all acts as cover. Additional survivability because people can't really reach you. So think Reinhardt can't get to you. Ramatra can't get to you if you're on the high ground without needing to walk all the way around and take the stairs. And then the ones that can, they need to use abilities to get to you. On top of that, you have a ton of visibility up on a high ground. We can see all over the place, get good angles on people. We can get around shields. Have we gone over target priority? Possibly.
I think so. I
Think
mean, I
so.
know
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning just like you know, to focus on a target that's, you know, more killable than just focusing your attention on the
Yeah.
tank type of thing.
Yeah, easier targets, right? So I glanced at notes, but like we talked about that last time. Just go for easier targets. Well, high ground and off angles are a way that you can do that very easily. Because a high ground, like if we're up on the high ground, imagine their tanks here. Well, we can just very easily get to like anybody behind them, right? High grounds kind of get us around the tank, in a lot of cases. So high ground's going to give us great angles to shoot at people from, which leads to more value, more kills. From a high ground, you also contest it for your whole team. So it's not just good for you. High ground is good for your team. It's good for the enemy team. So we can potentially push the enemy team off of a high ground and contest them off of a high ground, which rips the advantage away from them and hands it to the rest of your teammates, because now they have a high ground. And it's not just that we give them the high ground, but remember that your teammates are going to be following you around, because the tank kind of dictates where people stand. So if you're standing in bad positioning, your whole team's going to follow you to bad positioning. If you're standing in good positioning, like let's say you're on a high ground, your team is more likely to follow you up to the high ground and take good positioning for themselves. So it encourages good positioning behind your team. So just a lot of different things like that. You don't want to randomly drop from high ground, but do notice well that like if you need to drop, because let's say they're on point and they're about to cap, you can always just jump to point and now you're on point, right? And then you can retake, once again, you retake it after the fight's over, go back and just use that time to rotate, because you have tons of time in between fights. So I feel like it's being underutilized, and you're going to find a lot of advantages in looking to take high grounds in your games. Like in that last game, we just saw a lot of just pretty much no high ground usage. In the game before, maybe a tad bit more, kind of had to remind you to go and take it, that sort of thing. Once again, like all that making sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's see. We don't have time for another game. We got about like 11 minutes left here. So, I'm trying to think. Was there anything else that we could cover in the meanwhile? I guess like Doomfist techie stuff we can talk about. You kind of have your jump cancel, right? Like you can leap and then to kind of do mid-air punches. So like if I'm trying to like get up and punch this guy off the high ground or something like that, I can kind of do a jump cancel up to him. So let's see if I can even execute that. I do something like that where you can jump up, cancel it, and punch him off the high ground. You use that to kind of attack like people on high grounds, people like a Pharah or an Echo or things like that up in the air, Mercy or Lucio up on the walls and things like that. It's a bit more difficult attack, but it is something you can do. When you're punching, note that you can do a kind of sharp turns with your punch if you're flicking to like the sides. So for example here, I can kind of get over to the right here. I can kind of do a curve with my punch. If I jump and flick to the right side, well, let's see if I can do that better. If you do the little bounce at the end and flick to the right, notice how that kind of bounces you off to the right hand side. So if I'm trying to do this like S motion, I can even add a slam at the end of it, right? So I can do a punch, a leap, like an S motion with my jumps, or with my bounce there. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with how to do like object bouncing on Doomfist?
Object bouncing, no.
No. So, have you ever seen it done? Like, are you familiar with what it is?
I mean, I'm assuming what you mean by object bouncing is it kind of like like a mobility tech where you just use objects to get to higher places and
Yep,
stuff like that.
pretty much. And how you do it is basically, you charge up your punch, and at the point of contact, so right as you reach the object, you're pressing jump. And that puts you into your kind of bounce animation, like as we were talking about before, right? Your bounce. So as you're pressing jump as you're reaching the object, which can do things like this, where I mistimed it, press it too early there. Which leads to things like this, where you can go up the object and even like attain a high ground or something like that. the cost of a punch rather than the cost of a slam, which is a longer cooldown. Or let's say you just use slam, things like that. You can use it to kind of to take high grounds. You can use it to mix up enemies and kind of make it harder for them to hit you, things like that. You kind of gotta figure out like what things you can and can't bounce off of. Certain things are not the right height, like this. If I just try to do it, oh, I guess I can't actually bounce off that now. I think before you had to do it, you had to jump before you do it. Some things you might have to like jump up in the air to kind of bounce off of, but it's just a handy tech to know how to use, pretty much. I think that is about it. Yeah, alright, let's start with wrap up. Abilities, Doomfist, work on the block usage, make sure we're just getting our punches charged up, because you're going to be doing a lot more. You stun people with multiple people, so you're hitting multiple people, you're stunning them, you're punching faster. Overall, you're doing a lot more if you're having a charged punch. So look to charge them up whenever possible. Kind of like the thing of like Sigma, where block in situations where you need tanking, but you're also pretty much going to want to use it every chance you get. So what's the cooldown on it? It's 7 seconds, right? So you're pretty much going to want to use it like off cooldown whenever you're able to, so that you're able to keep your charge. Besides that, slam, pretty solid usage. Punch, pretty, I'd say usually pretty solid. I don't think we have time to go over anything else with it anyways. Then overall, just like maybe medium priority for you to work on. Then Sigma, shield usage, right? Make sure it's being used appropriately in times that you need it. Rock, watch kind of random flicking and make sure you're just hitting, looking to hit them, because sometimes we end up missing and then they don't do anything. Grasp, pretty solid. Not too many issues with it. Overall, that's probably around a medium as well. Reinhardt, maybe a tad bit higher on abilities, right? Charge, pretty solid. Not too many issues with it. Same with Fire Strike, but shield usage is the main thing. Don't hold it up. Don't hold it up for too long. Let it recharge. Shield hop in, shield hop out when you're in danger, and then just make sure you're using it when it's needed and not just holding it up when it's not needed. Overall is probably like medium, maybe a mild bit high end of a medium, something like that. Minor other thing with Reinhardt is you can actually I don't know if you've seen this tech yet, but you can kind of bounce out of your charge. So notice how if I can't actually jump up this, but I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, if you oh, it didn't let me do it. Wait, let's see if I'm able to. And then
yeah, you charge like you charge cancel, right? And then you jump.
Maybe I'm just not doing the tech correctly. Sorry, I haven't demonstrated this yet. I just heard it. Right up on top of the wall, or they. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that's not working. So, possible. That feels like it's not really bouncing anywhere. It's possible they patched that out.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, because I think I've seen it before.
Yeah. Alrighty. Then ultimates, shatter. Look to just make sure you're getting people in it. Sigma flux, not too many issues. You're pretty good with those. Doomfist ult, pretty solid. Not too many issues with ultimates. That's pretty low on the list. Next comes your mechanics. Reinhardt, not really too many mechanics in terms of anything. Doomfist, not too much. Sigma, make sure you're not just flicking when it's not necessary. Watch the flicking. At ranges, like when you're on top of somebody, you want to usually track them, like just be on top of them. The further away you go, you're gonna need to lead your shots because it's a projectile. So when you're close to somebody, you just aim straight at them, like so. If they're further away, you kind of have to aim ahead a little bit of where they're moving. Same thing with rock, and rock you're even gonna need to arc it so that it's going up in the air and whatnot. So it kind of has a travel time. And then watch a little bit of target priority. Who are you shooting at? Make it the easier targets. Overall, though, it's lower end of a medium with mechanics, possibly mildly lower. Then next comes positioning. Positioning, make sure you're using cover. Good positioning is use of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Make sure you're taking high grounds. High grounds are fantastic. Look to take them for you and your team. Don't be on them if they're nowhere near the fight. And obviously drop from them if the situation calls for it, like they're about to cap point or something like that. But remember that winning the fight usually takes priority over capping point. Winning the fight is more important because then you actually secure the point for longer. If they have point control for 10 seconds or for 10%, and then we win the fight and take it for the next 30%, then that's value. So always prioritize winning over just going contesting. Now, of course, going contest so that you're not just giving them free stuff, but if it's gonna get you killed, don't worry about it. Or if it's gonna give up a major advantage, don't worry about it. Besides that, make sure using appropriate range, right? Sigma, medium range. Don't push, back out if you need to. Respect no man's lands and chokes, point usages. I think that's mostly it. Overall, though, that's like a medium high. That's still a lot of things to work on. Reposition to the best place possible in between fights, right? Make sure you're going there in between fights. If you're pushing to point, push to point from the high ground option, like on Nepal. Usually during the first fight of the match, especially if you're on a character like Sigma, usually on the Sanctum, on the point with the pit. That map you usually push out on the left side during the first fight, and possibly even subsequent fights you can push out on the left side or on the side that's on the high ground, pretty much, right? And then on the village one, the one with the little the other map that you were on, that one usually, once again, you push out first fight to high ground. So that you can take high ground control and contest them and not just give it to them for free if they do go high ground. Awareness, watch your health bar. Make sure you're not pushing when you're low. Couple instances where that happened. Keep it in mind. Back up when you're low. Request healing. Make sure that you are watching just all the other things that are happening. Keep your ears open. Keep your eyes open. Watch kind of the flow of the fight. Watch different abilities and what things you need to block. Overall, though, like, anything is too bad. Maybe like a medium or so with awareness. So put that all in order. Number 1 is going to be your positioning. Number 2, let's put at ability usage because I think that's a bit simpler than awareness, right? Hopefully. Then comes awareness, then mechanics, and then finally ult usage. Kind of not really anything to worry about for the moment. Any questions on anything?
No questions.
Okay, gotcha. And keep it aggression scaling in mind as well. We talked about that last time, right? So just keep that in the back of your head as well when you're thinking, because sometimes, like, for example, like the low HP, right? Lack of resources, right? No shield, lack of resources, and sometimes we just play a little over aggressive when we didn't have resources. Alrighty. Well, recording stopped. Look at that.